Hey guys, it's Alex from 7th Hour Films, and today I'm going to be giving you my review of Solo, a Star Wars story, which I'm sure you've probably seen, maybe not, I guess. It didn't really have a great opening weekend, but I'm just going to take a guess that you've seen, and yeah, we are just going to talk about it. This is the second Star Wars anthology film and the fourth Star Wars movie to come out since the franchise was reloaded, I guess you could say, by Disney in 2015. So yeah, this movie follows Han Solo, as you can probably obviously tell, and it's interesting. It's very interesting. I've got a list of stuff that we can talk about. I'm not going to go particularly beat by beat. I'm going to just mention some things that I find interesting, and yeah, there's going to be some cool little like reference pictures or something over here. I guess there's nothing right there now because I'm not talking about anything. Unless I put the poster here. So maybe, who knows. Yeah. So, we're just going to go over a couple things, and yeah. So let's get started. Maybe I'm putting this in at the beginning. Hey, spoilers, this is actually... I'm in the middle of filming this, and spoilers. Boom, spoilers. Alright, onto the video. Alright, so the first thing I wanted to talk about is basically our main character, Han Solo, in this. I heard a lot of people say, like, this is the movie no one asked for, which I guess is kind of true. A Han Solo movie would not really be at the top of my list of sort of side stories that we could do, but I was never opposed to a Solo movie. I was like, oh, cool, a Solo movie. Interesting. So the first thing to talk about, like I said, is Han, and I really liked Han in this. I think it was a great performance by Alden Ehrenreich. Alden Ehrenreich, is that how you say his name? Not sure how you say his name, but he did a great job, I feel like. Yeah, I felt he really captured how smooth Han is. Like he's very much a scoundrel. Now, initially, when I saw the trailers, I was a bit skeptical about this guy. I was like, well, I don't know if he's really going to be a good Han Solo. And I kind of heard his voice, and it was a bit higher pitched than I thought it would be. You know, because Harrison Ford has that, you know, that trademark deep voice of his. But this guy really didn't have the Harrison Ford voice. But the thing is, you come to realize that he's not supposed to be playing Harrison Ford, he's supposed to be playing Han Solo. You'd think that would be obvious, but when Harrison Ford makes such an iconic character like Han Solo, you think that you would have to get it down exactly how Harrison Ford does it. But you don't. You just have to get it to Han Solo. Now, if this was Indiana Jones, this would probably be a different scenario, because I feel like Indiana Jones is, well, probably not more iconic than Han Solo, although maybe you could argue he might be a bit more iconic than Han. But I will say that there's more to the character of Indiana Jones that Harrison Ford gives. I think even Harrison Ford has said he really loves Indy and loves the character of Indy a lot more than Han. But, so with that, if this was, like if you came to me and said, okay, Alden Ehrenreich, and I'm just going to call him that, Alden Ehrenreich is going to be young Indiana Jones, I'd step back, I'd be like, well, okay, hang on. I'm not sure if he can quite pull off Indiana Jones. But as Han, he's pretty good. So, yeah, I probably talked a little too much about Indiana Jones in this, but you kind of have to talk about that in Harrison Ford when talking about Han. So, Alden Ehrenreich, really liked him as Han. The only thing, this is kind of something Chris Stuckman brought up, is that one thing they kind of missed with the character is how annoyed he gets with people. But I feel like that would come in more later in Han's life, because this is 10 years before A New Hope. So I don't think that Han would be that sort of... Well, okay, he is sarcastic. he's sarcastic and he's a scoundrel, but he's not, you know, he doesn't get as annoyed by the people around him as Ford did as Han Solo. And I think that's because this is pretty much Han's origin story. And I think we're just not there yet with the character. If we had another movie with him, we would probably, like, if this was we had a couple more years, we had a couple more stories before A New Hope, then I'd probably be like, okay, well, you're missing some aspects of the character. But for this movie, I think this worked. Next thing, we're going to get into some plot now. Han's name. So at the beginning of this, Han is on Corellia, and he's trying to get away from there with his girlfriend Qi'ra, and they end up getting separated, and he basically has a plan to become a pilot, get a ship, and come back and get her. But he's not really sure how he should do that, so he decides to join the Empire, basically, join the Imperial Army. And when he goes up to the Imperial officer that's doing the enlisting, the officer says, okay, what's your name? And he says, Han. And it's like, is that it? Just Han? Who are your people? What's your last name, basically? And Han says, I don't have anyone. I don't have a last name. And then the Imperial officer is like, very well then, Han Solo. And it's like, okay, that's a bit of a stretch, I think. It's a bit of a stretch. Like, I'm not saying like okay, I feel like that was not executed properly, but that's a good way of doing that. Is that yes, his name comes from the fact that he is kind of a loner, which you wouldn't think of because, we kind of always see Han with Chewie. But yeah. At the beginning of this, when he is pretty much a loner now, and I wish that Han prompted the name. I know I'm kind of stumbling over my words today. Yeah, sorry, I'm a little tired, but who cares? I'm getting the point across. Basically, I kind of wish it was like, who are your people and stuff, and I wish Han said, nothing, I'm riding solo. Or if he even just said, nothing, I'm solo. Then that would make sense for the guy to be like, alright, well then Han Solo. But, because when you think about it, like the way he does it, he just thinks of the word solo to give Han as his last name. You could have picked anything. Han Loner, Han Alone, Han Lonesome. It's just that he specifically picks solo, which is interesting. So Han joins the Empire, which is interesting, and we cut to about 3 years after that, and he's in this, what is clearly a World War I inspired battlefield, and he's in the trenches and the crap of war, and everything sucks, and he finds out that there are actually some smugglers amongst the Imperial ranks, and when he tries to join them so he can basically get out of the Empire, they turn him in as a deserter, and the Empire's like, alright, throw him to the beast. And Han is like, there's a beast? What? So, and at first I'm like, who's the beast? And then I'm like, wait a minute, who are we missing in this movie? And I was like, Chewie. We're missing Chewie. So Han gets thrown into a pit, and sure enough, here comes this beast, and it's Chewbacca, which is really cool. And they said, like, he hasn't eaten in 3 days, he'll be hungry. So it's like, yeesh, I guess Chewie has been eating human beings until Han gets here. And Han, basically, like, Chewie starts attacking Han, because, like, hey, food. And, so he's attacking him, and then Han actually speaks Chewie's language. He speaks the Wookiee language. And he goes, stuff like that. And it's like, and it's funny. It's definitely really funny. And Chewie stops because, yeah, this dude is speaking your language. He understands you. And basically Han says, I have a way out. I know a way out of here. You know, I've got a ship that's waiting for me. But we have to work together to get out of here. And they do, and it's really fun. And you know what? That's a great way to see how Han met Chewie. I really did like that. Then we join up with Tobias Beckett, played by Woody Harrelson. And I really like Beckett. Some people say like he doesn't really go through a character arc in this, which is perfectly fine. And I agree with that, which is good. I think there's nothing for him to go through in this, basically. Excuse me. Yeah. So I really like Beckett. I suppose you could... Oh, did I mention spoilers at the beginning of this? Maybe I'm putting this in at the beginning. Hey, spoilers. This is actually... I'm in the middle of filming this, and spoilers. Boom, spoilers. Alright, onto the video. Okay, so Beckett's crew, like, it's... I suppose some people found it obvious that Beckett was going to betray Han at the end. I didn't really see that coming. Something I didn't see coming was that Beckett's crew, he had a crew, basically, at the beginning of the movie, during the first train heist. And, yeah, it was interesting because it's like, okay, I haven't seen these people in the trailers, so I get the feeling they're going to die, and sure enough they do, but, yeah, that was interesting. It kind of sucks because they were a fun crew. I actually wouldn't have minded if they stuck around for the rest of the movie, but, yeah, so they essentially failed their first mission with Han and Chewie to get this, coaxium stuff, which is basically, like, I guess it's fuel for hyperdrives. Is it? Or wait, are those kyber crystals? Huh, I don't know. Maybe one of you guys can correct me. I thought they said that the coaxium is fuel for the hyperdrive, but maybe not. I don't know. Is it? Maybe it's kyber crystals, but that doesn't fully make sense. I don't know. Maybe you guys know or can tell me in the comments, but oh, sorry, I'm screwing around with things on my floor. Sorry about that. So yeah. So they go back basically to the guy that hired them to get the coaxium, and it's this guy, Dryden Voss. He's played by Paul Bettany. He's okay. I'd say he's serviceable. He ends up being sort of the villain, and he's okay. I don't think there's a lot to him, but he's serviceable as a villain. He's pretty decent, I will say. And yeah, Paul Bettany looks like he's having fun playing the character, so that's nice. And basically, they try to make it up to Voss, to Dryden, by saying, okay, well, we'll get you more coaxium, basically. Like, look, we screwed up getting the coaxium, we'll go find some more. And they're trying to figure it out, like how they're going to do it. And Han actually comes up with the idea, hey, why don't we just go get some unrefined coaxium from Kessel, which is interesting. And they say, well, coaxium that's unrefined, it's very unstable. You know, if you don't make it to a refinery soon, then it's going to explode, basically. But Han says that they can take on the challenge, and Dryden accepts, so now the crew has a new job. But right now, the crew is consisting of Han, Beckett, and Chewie. The rest of Beckett's crew died. And also, when they get to Dryden's place, Han runs into his girlfriend, Qi'ra. She actually now works for Dryden. And Dryden sends her with Han and the crew to go get the coaxium, basically. So hey, now she's a part of the crew. She was really good, Qi'ra. I'd say she was pretty good. Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. Just good. Really nice. Really good. Now we come to the part where they need a ship. And they find Lando Calrissian, played by Donald Glover. And he's really good, I will say. I don't think he's given a whole lot. He was very angry in this film, but it makes sense when you look at this as he keeps getting pissed off at Han, which actually explains because he ends up calling Han, and it's like, because in the old movies, Lando would occasionally just say Han, and it's like, but his name is Han, that doesn't make sense. But here they explain it as, well, Lando's just doing that to piss Han off, basically. So that's funny. Lando, again, really, really good. He was mad a lot of the time, which was funny. And yeah, if they made a movie with him, if they made like a Lando solo movie, I'd be up for it. It sounds really fun, because I really like Lando in this. Lando also has a droid, L3. This droid, what even? Let me take a quick drink. Crap, that's the last of my drink. So, he has a droid, L3, and this is basically a droid that wants equal rights for droids. Like, this droid hates how droids are abused by people, and is trying to fight to save and liberate droids. Okay, that's interesting. That's something new. We haven't really seen that with a droid, so okay, I'll take it. But it's almost used to, like, comedic effect, because there's one point, like, L3 is, like, piloting the Millennium Falcon, and because that's Lando's ship, and Lando's gonna, go back and do something, and just leave L3 to keep flying, and he just kind of looks back, and he's like, hey, you need anything? And L3 just turns, like, equal rights, and Lando's just like, whatever, and just goes. So, yeah, and there's also a thing, I guess there's sort of a romance between Lando and L3. Before the movie came out, I guess one of the producers said, like, hey, Lando is actually pansexual, and it's like, okay. I'm one of those guys, I don't know, this might be sort of a dick thing, but like, if there are characters that are, like, gay or lesbian or pansexual or something like that, or transgender, it's like, I'm always the guy that just kind of sits there and is like, okay. It's like, when people say it's like, oh, it's a big deal, and it's like, yeah. Okay. I'm always kind of that guy. I don't hate stuff like that, despite what my Supergirl reviews might make me look like. I always say that, like, if you're going to emphasize, like, oh, this person is gay, or, transgender, or something like that, it's like, well, does it work in the story? Because I guess I'm one of those guys that's like, I just want a good story. Which you would think would be all of us, but whatever. I'm always sitting here like, if them being gay adds to the story, then, more power to you. If it doesn't have a purpose in the story, what is the point? Like, I'm always, I guess, I don't know. I'm just kind of the guy that's like, there has to be a point to everything. And if there's not a point, then there's no use for this thing. And Lando being pansexual, the purpose for this is honestly just, I guess, a joke. Like, they kind of do a joke, like, L3 is like, well, Captain Calrissian is clearly in love with me. And they kind of make a joke like they've actually, like, screwed before. And it's like, and I think it's Qi'ra that's in this scene, and she's just like, how does that work? And L3 is like, we make it work. And it's like, okay, whatever. But if you didn't know that, honestly, like, if it was just it is just kind of that one joke. Otherwise, it really just seems like Lando cares for his droid. Not per se that he's in love with his droid, but that he really cares. It's like how Anakin cares about, R2, like in the Clone Wars and stuff, when R2 got lost that one time. And Anakin was, like, super pissed, like, no, I have to find my friend, my droid, and stuff like that. So it's like, it doesn't really come across as, oh, Lando is in love with L3. It really just comes across as, well, Lando really cares for his droid. So, yeah. So I think someone else mentioned it's like if you have to specifically say before the movie comes out that a character is pansexual because nothing in the movie shows that they are, then then you gotta write better. You gotta make it more obvious that they are, basically. So yeah. So yeah, Lando being pansexual, it's like, okay, moving on. What does that add to the story? It adds a joke. Well, I guess that's something. But if you want to watch, quick plug, if you want to watch me rant and rave about a romance that has nothing to do with anything, go watch my Supergirl Season 2 review. I guess it'll be up here in the iCards. Great, I'm going to have to remember to put that in. So this is around the 20-minute mark-ish, probably 19 minutes or so. Yeah, go watch my Supergirl Season 2 review. I rant about a relationship in there because it has no point to it. Not the point. The point now is Solo. Let's get back to important things. The Kessel Run. So, okay, well, we have a little bit of a fight on Kessel, which is kind of interesting. It really doesn't go anywhere. It's just like, and now here's an action scene on Kessel. And it's like, okay, next. So we get the coaxium. Yeah, coaxium, I think is what it's called. And basically, we finally understand what the Kessel Run is. Because we've always heard the Kessel Run, the Kessel Run. Oh, he did it in 12 parsecs. And everyone's like, parsecs are measurements of distance, not time, actually. And yeah, because it was kind of a thing where it's like, he did it in 12 parsecs. It's like, okay. But if it's like a race, how did he... Yeah. But now we actually know that the Kessel Run... So Kessel is in like this huge storm. The planet Kessel is in this storm. But there's a specific path. It's the only path to and from Kessel. And it's about 20 parsecs long. Parsecs, which is a measurement of distance. But as they're flying the Falcon out of Kessel, the Empire is here. There's a huge Star Destroyer and there's TIE fighters. So Han basically decides, okay, we're going to have to take a different route. So they actually fly into the storm and take pretty much a direct route. A direct route because the actual path twists and turns and stuff like that. So, technically, he got out and did the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs because everyone else has to do it within 20 for that path. And now we finally get it, and you know what? Good on you. This finally makes sense. Because, honestly, a lot of people were like, what the heck is the Kessel Run? And with the confusion on the parsecs and stuff like that, I'm glad that now we have a definitive answer on what it is, and it makes sense. So, so we get to the refinery, and everything works out, and these marauders come in, and they were actually, in the beginning, they pretty much were the conflict in the train sequence, but they take off their mask to reveal, well, the leader takes off her mask to reveal she's basically a kid. She's like a teenager. And yeah, she explains that they're not marauders or pirates. They're rebels, basically. They're trying to start a rebellion against the Empire and stuff. And so they need the coaxium. And yeah, so now we get this whole thing where pretty much Han Solo improvises the rest of the movie. Like, he improvises like 8 different plans on how to give the coaxium to Dryden, but also get out of there, but then people turn on him, so he figures out a new plan, and they take the coaxium, but then he goes and he gets the coaxium back because he had another plan with Chewie and stuff like that, and yeah. It's pretty crazy, but yeah, Han just sort of improvises the last, basically the climax of this movie, and it's really good. And part of that is sort of tricking Dryden Voss with the coaxium, and we sort of get a final fight scene. It's really not a fight scene between Han and Dryden, but it's more of Han and Qi'ra versus Dryden. And Qi'ra does most of the work, honestly. Han is not actually involved in that fight much. She is, because she's, like, trained. Like, Dryden has, like, these weird dual dagger things that he's using. She just pulls out a friggin' sword and uses that against him. And Han's just trying not to get hit, honestly. So, yeah, it's interesting. And then, basically, the person that turns on Han is Beckett. And Beckett comes in and takes out Dryden's guards so that he's the only one with a blaster, basically. And he takes Chewie, because Chewie carries the coaxium for him, and they both go. Chewie doesn't turn, but he basically is held at gunpoint to go, or blaster point. And eventually Han makes it out there and gets ahead of Beckett. And so, yeah. So they're kind of staring each other down. Han's got his blaster out already. And Beckett is about to go for his blaster, and Han straight up just shoots him and kills him. So, Han shot first. Hey, it's definitely obvious that they put that in there to say that Han shot first. Yeah. Now, the only thing is here, I don't know how well that works, but I don't know. It's okay. It's one of those things where it's like, you kind of look at it as like, well, would Han really shoot? Yeah, I guess it's still that whole argument, like, should we portray Han as like this cold-blooded killer? But my argument is that we haven't seen anything in this entire movie, I think, to say that he's a cold-blooded killer, I don't think. Whereas in A New Hope, that's his introduction, that's his first scene. So if you introduce that he's sort of this, he's sort of this hardened smuggler who will kill if he has to, basically to survive, that works. Whereas here, it's like, he killed Beckett, it's like, aw. And maybe it's because I like Beckett, but I don't know. And then Qi'ra is still on Dryden's ship and starts to take off. Basically, she double-crosses Han, and in the twist that I never saw coming, she basically calls Dryden's master. Dryden actually worked for someone, and it's this hooded figure. And at first I'm like, is that the Emperor? And I'm like, no, I don't think so. Because then they start talking, and that voice is like, well, that's clearly not the Emperor. And I'm like, okay, well, wait, maybe that's Snoke. It's like, wouldn't that be a tie-in if this was actually Snoke? And then it's not Snoke, because they take off their hood. It's Maul. What? It's Maul. What the heck? Where did he come from? But yeah, in the Han Solo movie, Maul is at the end. Okay. Jeez, that's awesome. And I feel like I could make a whole video on the possibilities of this, but it was funny. It's funny seeing fans, people react to that have not seen the Clone Wars or Rebels. I have seen Clone Wars and Rebels. I know that Darth Maul came back, and we've even gone up to his confirmed death in Rebels. And yeah, so but like my dad was saying, like after the movie, he was like, now hold on, Darth Maul was cut in half. And I was like, yeah. And he fell down this huge hole, and it's like, yeah, he should be dead. And it's like, nope, he got better. You gotta watch Clone Wars. Specifically, the Maul stories in Clone Wars are really great. I know I give Clone Wars a lot of flack, but when Clone Wars is really good, it is really good. It's sort of one of those Clone Wars is very hit and miss with me, When it's good, it's really friggin' good, but when it's bad, it's really friggin' bad. But all the Darth Maul stuff was amazing in Clone Wars, and especially in Rebels. So yeah, so to see him here, it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, are we getting a Maul movie? A movie about Maul? That would be awesome. So yeah, and it was, I saw in the credits, it was Ray Park in the makeup, but it was Sam Witwer doing the voice. And Sam Witwer is the voice of Maul on Clone Wars and on Rebels. So the fact that they've basically taken both actors who have played Maul and, you know, basically like fusion hod them into one performance, that is awesome. So yeah, can't wait to see where we go with there. Yeah, and honestly, like, I know there's sort of talks like Alden Ehrenreich is actually contracted to have 2 more movies where he plays Han Solo. Not necessarily sequels to this, but where he's the main character. But if they want to bring him back like as a side character in like a Lando movie or something, he can come back and be Han again. And honestly, I'm okay with that. And you know what? I know there's a lot of mixed reactions, and there's a lot of people that really didn't like this movie. Honestly, I wouldn't mind a sequel. I really, really like this movie. And if this leads into... I feel like this could lead into a lot of things. Like, this could lead into a movie about Qi'ra. This could lead into a movie about Lando. This could lead into a movie about Maul, apparently. So, yeah. Honestly, I don't know. I will say this is the most excited I've been for more Star Wars after one of these movies. Like, Force Awakens, I was like, yeah, Force Awakens, I was really excited. I was like, man, that was awesome. Star Wars is back. And then Rogue One, I was like, alright, cool. That was a nice story. Now I could go watch New Hope, and then that's that. It's sort of... That's the thing about Rogue One, is that it's not really open to sequels, obviously. But with Rogue One, it's like, okay, well, if you want a sequel, go watch New Hope. It's basically a direct follow-up now to Rogue One. And then Episode 8, The Last Jedi, I was like, okay, well, that was really good. I guess we'll see what happens next. I was left more confused than excited, I guess. Whereas, this time around, I am super, super excited for more Star Wars movies. Honestly, I'm just so curious where we could go. And especially because now we're bringing in Maul from the cartoons. We're bringing in Maul from Clone Wars and Rebels, which means we could bring in other stuff from those shows. You could do an Ahsoka movie. Someone said, like, you could do, like, a Clone Wars movie, just a story from the Clone Wars. Get back Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor, bring in Ashley Eckstein as Ahsoka, bring in Rex. I've always said, like, if you have... Every time in the Clone Wars when the 4 of them are together in the same story, it's a great story. Like, pretty much no matter what, if you have Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Rex in the same story, it's perfect. So, yeah, if they wanted to do one of those movies, they could. They could just do a Clone Wars movie. It doesn't have to be huge. Like, even this, in Solo, I'm so happy that this was not another Fate of the Galaxy thing. Because even in Rogue One, that was the case with the whole Death Star plans. Whereas this, it was a very smaller, personal thing. It wasn't the Fate of the Galaxy, and I really like that. So now, I feel like Solo, and I know a lot of people don't like Solo, but I feel like this was kind of important. Like, this is an important movie. I feel like this movie could be the stepping stone to an even vaster Star Wars cinematic universe, I guess. Where we could see a lot more movies, maybe based on side characters or animated characters. We could see a Rebels movie, maybe, or something like after Rebels or before Rebels. We could see something with Hondo. We could see something with Lando. We could see something with Ahsoka. Who knows? There's so much stuff that we could do. Honestly, they could do a Leia movie. Like, because when Leia, like, showed up in Rebels, and she comes in, and there's some points she has a blaster and stuff. I thought she was really good in Rebels, so it's like, yeah, you could have a young Leia movie. that would be interesting. Like, have her as sort of like a senator, basically. You could have a movie about Bail Organa if you want. I don't know. Well, maybe Bail might be stretching it. I don't know how well you can make a movie about Bail, but yeah, you could do a lot of cool side stories now that we basically from what we've done in Solo. We've taken a character, we've given him a little side story, nothing too much. It's like it's not the fate of the galaxy again. It's just a story, a Star Wars story. And now that we've brought in Maul sort of opens the door to bringing in so much other stuff. And I really like that. So, yeah, I really loved Solo, A Star Wars Story. I thought it was really great. I acknowledge it has a couple problems, and I don't know how well I covered those in this video. Maybe someday I could come back, like if I watch the movie again, maybe I could do like another video or something, but I don't know, maybe not. And I suppose I will say, if you don't like Solo, that's perfectly fine. And I understand if you don't like Solo. Like, I've seen a couple reviews where people are like, it's not really that great. And, you know, here's why I think that. And I listened to that and I was like, okay, well, I don't really agree with what you're saying, but I understand why someone would not like Solo. But I really like Solo. I thought this was a great movie, a great, fun movie. And I'm excited to see what we're doing next, and yeah, this was really, really fun. So, yeah, with all that being said, I'm Alex from 7th Hour Films, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching. If you want to watch more of my videos, I've got like a bunch of Star Wars videos down here, I've got some other videos you can check out over here, and I've got the subscribe button. You can also follow me on social media, links below in the description. Thanks again.